Hi, welcome to the More Gems Show. I'm Steve Moriarty, your host, and with me tonight is my son Jeffrey. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, I am white.
Yeah. Huh. Can we?
Haven't got too much sun lately, but
Oh well.
okay.
Not the best color. So we've had some technical issues. Mainly, the technical issue is my son Michael has COVID, and Michael's in charge of putting the show together. He's been here tonight to help us out, and he's going to try and monitor the chat from home. So hopefully we don't have too many issues because neither one of us is real familiar on how to handle them. So.
Yeah, we're playing around with it.
Yeah,
right
first technical issue is Jeffrey looks pretty pale.
Makes my eyes kind of look like
Yeah, well, they look
zircon
nice
a little
blue.
bit.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, okay.
So, how do we normally start this?
Well, we
Not
usually
too
have
confused.
some news. We've been off for a while. We didn't have a show last month.
Well, we did
Well, we did the Christmas jewelry show.
Yes.
So this is the first gem show. You should have plenty of gems because we gave you 2 months to work on this
True,
stuff.
and we do have plenty of gems. I've had to work at deciding what not to show. So we have a lot of backup stones that are there that you won't see tonight during the show, but they are available for 15% also. We have 5 hidden gems. Those will be 25% off. What's the coupon code for the hidden gems? Do we have one?
25. Let me try something. Let me see what I fix gems.
Oh, we're gonna see if
You can hang out right there.
Michael is here still.
Yes.
Me and Jeff have both had COVID recently, so we're hoping that we do have the immunity necessary.
There's the. Yeah, I can roll with being white. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's better.
There you better.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, well, it's much better. All right. There's my,
Close to normal. Okay, sorry about
slightly
that.
less white color. All right.
So, Jeff, you want to tell us?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I've seen a lot of people. Somebody said they're from Nova Scotia. That's awesome. It's Scott from Scotland. Yeah, got a lot of people around the world. So excellent.
It's cool.
So tonight we're going to be showing quite a few newly cut stones by Steve, the Master Gem Cutter here. There's going to be quite a few ways to purchase, but we're going to be showing showing the stones on the screen here. And if you do like the stone, you can go to MoreGems.com. There's a big banner on the homepage. There's a green banner at the top of the screen, so it's pretty easy to find. Find the gem you liked, and then you can go through checkout and purchase it. You're going to get 15% off that stone with the coupon code Big Show. There's also going to be 5 hidden gems, which you can't see right now. We let those pop up later, and we'll let you know. And if you like that one, you're going to get 25% off with the coupon code Rare25. Now, we have a few different options for payment. You can use credit card, like most people do, but we also have PayPal that you can purchase through. And we also have financing fee-free for up to 6 months. So you can pay over time. We're not holding stones anymore. Ran into a few issues, my fault, in previous shows. But if something's around tomorrow, you can definitely do layaway, but you would need to contact us tomorrow. What am I missing, Steve? Anything?
You went through the credit card.
Credit card.
Who are we currently? That changes often. So
the financing?
Yeah.
It's
financing.
called bread.
Bread.
Yeah. So you pay for up to 6 months, like I said. So
Oops, sorry.
But we just lost Steve for a second, and then he's back.
Trying to fix it.
Yes.
And when you look at the pricing that's on the website before the discount, you're going to see one higher number price, which is based on this book, The Gem Guide. The Gem Guide is a market-driven, independent pricing guide where they go to the shows and they price different stones, and they do probably about 40 different stones in here, maybe more than that. There's probably 6 or 7 different qualities of sapphires, different colors, and they do give us a reference price that we can build an appraised price or whatever retail price using this guide. It's priced wholesale, but they recommend a markup, and that's the higher price you're going to see on each of these stones is based on pricing from this gem guide. It's used by appraisers worldwide. It's probably the most popular pricing guide for colored stones. So the second price is what our normal price is online, and then tonight 15% off with the coupon code Big Show.
Yes. All right. And normally everybody, I'm like the chat moderator and Michael's handling all this stuff. So I'm going to try to do both for a little bit. Mike is going to be helping later in the chat. So if you have questions, normally, that's another thing that we talk about. If you are watching the show, if you do log into YouTube or your Gmail account, there is an active, lively chat session going on. You can go through there and ask questions for me, for Steve, and we'll try to get them in throughout the show. A little bit slower tonight just because we're kind of have a lot of different things going on. But you can also chat with us online or email us. We're available there. So like somebody asked if Steve, we also have a store in Crown Point, Indiana. Someone's asking if we're open on Friday, and of course we are open on Friday. What's our hours on Friday?
Friday is 10 to 5:30.
10 to 5:30. So easy as that. If you have
Currently,
questions, just ask us.
I've considered cutting it back to noon to 5:30, but we haven't done that yet. Okay. And that's mainly because we do so much online. Our online business is 80% of our entire business. So, we could maybe use the extra time in the morning to handle that, and we'll see. Business is changing, and it's become so much of an internet business that I have to consider how to handle that end of it compared to our retail store. So,
all right.
Getting started. Let's see if Jeffrey can handle the controls.
All right, starting with the first stone again. If you like it, go to MoreGems.com, 15% off Big Show. All right. So, yeah, I think I'm fine. Okay, I think I did it. All right.
All right. So this is our first stone is a blue topaz. I don't cut blue topaz a lot, just because the price per carat is to the point where the cutting costs kind of make it difficult to be competitive and be worthwhile cutting. But I find blue topaz has sold real well for me, so I'm starting to cut more of them. Not that I like to cut them because they're more difficult to polish, take a lot more time to polish. And a stone this size, I probably end up 6 to 7 hours into it. So the stone weighs 24 carat. It's really long stone, which works well in a pendant. You can do it in a ring. These long shapes actually work out real well in a ring. You can do anything from simple to elaborate, and just makes a unique looking piece. This is a little different cut. Most of the time when I cut, I don't cut by design, and this is one of those. So they don't have names for the cuts or... Yep.
So this
there we go.
I don't know if you brought this up. This would be like a pendant or something, correct?
Well, you could do a ring.
Do a ring?
Yeah. I mean, it would make a...
Tell everybody technical difficulties real quick.
Technical
I'm
difficulties.
trying to fix Jeff's camera here.
So yes, you could do a ring. You just got to want a big look. on audio?
I don't think so. That's good. All right. Sorry, everybody.
All right, we're back. Sorry for leaving you there, but definitely some difficulties with COVID mic.
Mostly. All right, I'll leave you two to it.
Okay.
All right, we'll do our best.
All right.
Good luck.
Thanks for putting up with us here. So this stone is probably over an inch long. 31 millimeters, so it's like 1.25 inches long. But yes, you can definitely do it in a ring. And I was going to try and show that. Can you get the full screen picture back up there? Always difficult for me. So just a
hands right there.
long ring, it'd be knuckle to knuckle, but it'd be cool. Yeah, definitely. So this stone, $960. We don't have an appraised price on it because the appraisal price of blue topaz is relatively low, and it's probably the $960, I think, is what it actually figures to. But because the amount of time it takes, this is probably the least discounted or no discounted material, just because it when it appraises at $40 a carat, I can't cut it for less than $40 a carat. Just my cutting's going to be better, my cutting's going to be unique, and you're going to have a beautiful stone still for not a lot of money. This is a 24 karat stone, $960, and with the 15% off, it's $816. Comes from Brazil.
And
Good,
yeah,
good hard stone.
Yeah, I was going to say that for people that haven't watched the show before, you talked about putting a ring and everything. That's stuff we can do, right?
Yep. Yeah, we can pretty much make anything you want. If you have a picture of something that you like, just send us a picture. We'll give you a quote, and you can decide whether you want to go ahead with it. We can pretty much do any metal. We don't work in sterling, but we do 14 karat, 18 karat, platinum. We can do 10 karat. We don't recommend it, but 10 karat, as long as it's gold or platinum, we can do it. So, and Christopher Michael is our designer. He designs many of our pieces, and we do a computer-aided design. You can pretty much see exactly what it's going to look like when it's done. Did you check the dings there?
Yeah, I gotta
Okay.
check those.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
So up next, I think I'm done with that one. This is a stone that I've had for a while, and I just recut it. It was a standard emerald cut, but I started thinking about the opposed bars I've done, and it just brightens them up and just makes a much better stone out of these deeper colors in the greens. So you just get a lot of life out of it. You just get a unique look to the stone, the way it flashes. Some people call it a pixel cut. I've always known it as an opposed bar. Opposed bar meaning the bars run one direction on the top and they go the opposite on the back. So it's a long step cut on the back and pretty much a step cut, but the cutting goes across the top of the stone. So it's kind of a domed. If I can you can see what the dome looks like. So this is a tourmaline, comes from Brazil, weighs 15.88 carats. The appraised price is $7,850. Our price online is $34.90, and the price with 15% off is $29.66. So this is a real interesting stone. I had a beautiful design made up for it. But I started looking at the stone. It was a pendant, and this stone really just doesn't work as a pendant. In a ring, it'll work very well. As a bracelet, it'll work very well. But unfortunately, as a pendant, the action, you just don't see it. and it just shows as a dark stone as a pendant. So a little bit limiting with this stone, but again, you know, you can do that long ring. Can I have the
Yes,
whole?
you can.
Yeah. So again, long ring, but it would work. Or you can do a bracelet out of it. You know, just as the pendant, it just doesn't show the brilliance. So it's a little bit of an issue with this stone. I said I had a really cool pendant design and just ready to put it together, and just started looking at that, and it just wasn't going to work. You know, so a bit of a limiting factor for this stone. Yeah, it is a real cool stone. Yeah, but if you could use a bracelet, you run it across your wrist, or as a long ring, you know, it'll work real nice. Okay.
Talk about that one?
Uh,
You get the price, right?
yeah, I did.
Up.
Next up is a peridot. This comes from Pakistan. Just a real nice shape, beautiful color.
We talk about it every show that growing up, it's like Peridot was like, oh, my birthstone's Peridot.
Yeah.
But some of the Peridot now that's coming out, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's much nicer than the material that came out of Arizona. Really need to change the settings on this camera for this stone because it doesn't have any of the yellow that you see in there. This is more of a blue-green peridot, really the top color. As it is pictured is what you're going to see. Yeah. You know, when I take these pictures, I have the ability to alter the color on the settings on the camera. There's 5 or 6 different settings, and you just got to find the one that looks right and looks most like the stone is what our goal is. You know, and as you see it in the picture and video here is what you're going to see when you get it. You know, it's really nicely cut stone. I didn't cut the stone, but beautifully cut gem. Weighs 4.86 carat. Appraised price is $29.20. $1,245 is our price online, and with the 15% off, it is $1,058. Moving right along to our first Tanzanite. Kind of a unique Tanzanite. That picture didn't change. So we worked at changing this picture because that is not the picture of this gem.
Okay, well,
We did change it.
there is some good news.
Okay.
It did sell.
It sold?
Yes.
Well, it sold according to that picture, or that's the question. Whoever bought it, you know, this is the video of that come up.
Let's see.
There you go. So this is I think this one's natural blue too.
Okay.
Yeah, the picture there is inaccurate.
All right.
So
Cerise, if
yeah,
you're watching still, so the video and let's see if I can, and this is the actual stone.
yeah, not what's pictured. I do own what's pictured, so you can own that stone. I don't know how that got transferred, and I'm assuming I own that stone. I'm not 100% sure. There was just some miscommunication. It should be online correct. If you look on More Gems, the picture should be the stone that you're looking at right now on the screen. You know,
Still an amazing stone.
yeah, and I do believe this one is natural. I thought it would say up there, but so meaning a natural blue, it came out of the ground this color. Hopefully this is the stone.
So actually, the picture on the website is correct.
The picture on the website, yeah, we changed it.
Okay.
I don't know why it didn't come up here
Alright.
like that. I guess Michael had to change it up here.
So actually, the stone sold before we even did this. So the person who purchased it probably saw the original picture.
Okay.
That's it actually is.
And does it on the website? Do you have it up?
Yep.
Does it say natural? I
Uh,
should know. I got it, but
Natural color tint.
yeah.
Yep.
So this is natural, and my experience, if it had gone through the show and maybe lasted another week or two, I would have heated it, just because I know that these stones that are natural, their color tends to get better when you heat them. So if natural's not important to you, then you heat them and you get a little deeper color out of them. But this has a beautiful color as it is. And it, to some people, it has more value because it is natural, as is in most gems. You look at emeralds and rubies and sapphires that are natural color, and they're worth from 20 to 40% more than the comparable heated stone. But currently, it is difficult to identify these as natural. There is one lab, which is AGL, American Gemological Laboratories. They claim that they can identify a lot of the naturals, and I can identify them from the rough almost 100% of the time, whether it is a natural rough or not, because the colors, once you heat them, change in the dichroscope from what they are. But that's not 100% way of knowing. You know your supplier, and he tells you it's natural, and you believe that mostly. And I know the look of naturals, but I have seen some heated stone recently that had the same look color wise. What naturals have always been unique, in the past up till just the last year. What I saw as natural color only occurred as natural. But I have seen a couple of heated stones just recently that would have fooled me as to whether they were natural or not. But with the dichroscope, it's often helpful because there's often a little yellow left in them, but not always. Some of the secondary tones are green, and green doesn't change on heating. So, but this one's natural. Yeah. So if it's any issue with you with the picture issue, it's not an issue. As with all these, you have 30 days return rights. So it's never a problem. You get a stone and decide that's not for you, just send it back, and you'll only be charged the postage that was cost of sending it out, and otherwise you'll be refunded the full amount.
Thank you, Cerise. Just to cut in here, Steve, wanted to say thank Kim for watching. She's bought a few pieces from us. Nima's bought a few pieces from us.
Your sister's on there.
Dana's on here. Yep. There was a question. One gentleman wanted to know. Curious why we don't usually work in 10-karat gold.
Well, the price difference just doesn't make enough difference for me to use 10-karat gold. When I look at 10-karat gold, I get 10-karat pieces in, and usually the stones that are in them are the lowest quality, the diamond quality is low, and that's the mentality of 10-karat gold. You're using it to make a piece cheaper. It is, as Europeans would look at us using 14 karat, and they're using mostly 18 karat. It's just a quality of materials and quality of the stones need to match. And in my opinion, 10 karat doesn't match a really fine gem. The $150 that you save on a mounting just doesn't really make any sense to me. A jeweler, he looks at 10 karat and he thinks an inferior product is the problem I have with 10 karat. Other than that, yeah, it holds up well. I would assume it may tarnish quicker because less gold. Um, that's an assumption that it takes a long time for gold to tarnish. But the lower the metal, the more that you have nickel in it, and other secondary metals that will not hold up as much as gold. So I'm assuming tarnishing will be quicker, which is also true of rose gold. Rose gold tarnishes quicker just because of all the copper that's in it.
All right, ready for the next?
Yep. All right. This is our first hidden gem. Oh,
Yes.
so it's not online
everybody,
yet?
For the hidden gems, especially if you're just arriving, these you can't see yet. I'm going to add it to the website in about 30 seconds. So if you're on that collection of all of our deal gems, all you got to do is refresh the page in about 30 seconds, and then it'll be there for you. But in the meantime, you can talk about it.
Okay. This is a 2.33 carat sapphire. Comes to us likely from Sri Lanka. I know that's where I bought it from, but it's often hard to separate Sri Lankan and Madagascar stones, which has been true since sapphires were discovered in Lakaka and in Madagascar. I traveled to Madagascar for many years, from 2001, I think, till about 2000. Last trip was 2008. And sapphires were being produced in quantity in Sri Lanka. And everything you bought in Ceylon, they would say they were Sri Lankan stones and not from Madagascar, just because the value of Sri Lankan stones was higher. Madagascar was producing stones at a much cheaper price, and the mentality was to use the higher price source, stating the source, and it was pretty much impossible to separate. I'm thinking GIA may be able to separate these now as to what the source is. I'm not positive about that, but they are pretty good at identifying sources. So this stone is praises at 93.10. Online it was 76.40, and with 25% off, it's 57.30. Just a really, really nice stone. High clarity, very nice cutting. Let's see, there you can see some of the color zoning. That straight line zoning, which because of the facets on the back appears a little curved. That would be some of the separation for natural from synthetic. Synthetic being curved, and the natural being straight lines that actually follow the crystal hexagon face. Often you can see part of the hexagon in the stones. You really, might be able to see a little curvature there. Not curvature, little angular change. I can't quite tell. But if you didn't have these facets to look through, these lines will be perfectly straight. And it's one good indication of a natural stone as opposed to a synthetic. So just very nice sapphire. Sapphires over 2 carat is kind of the magic number in sapphires. You'll get probably a 30% jump from 1.5 carats to something over 1 carat. So just really nice stone.
Sapphire are one of the hardest stones, right? So
Yeah, sapphire is very hard. It's 9 in hardness. Diamond's 10. But there's 2 factors involved with the toughness of a stone. The durability of sapphire is actually greater than that of diamond. And it's mainly because there's no cleavage plane. You can cleave a diamond, you hit it right. I had my best friend, Mark, his wife was wearing a marquee, and she actually threw garbage into one of these swinging garbage cans. It caught her stone, and it just split it right in half. So that's the durability issue with diamond. So diamond toughness is good, and sapphire toughness is excellent. So sapphire is a tougher stone, but not quite as hard as diamond. But it has both factors going for it: hardness and toughness.
So, I had a couple questions. So, is as far as the sapphire color, one woman was asking, she prefers actually lighter sapphire. Is that usually less expensive?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, the lighter colors. We do own one. It may not be on there yet. I have a natural that's a lighter color and much less expensive. We're talking half the price per carat from a deeper blue and maybe even more. The lighter you get, the less money that it gets to be. And they can be very, very attractive also. It's this whole thing about the best color and is only goes so far. I mean, if you like light blue, it's not as expensive, not considered to be the top color, but can still be a beautiful gem. That's why all the Montana sapphires are selling so well right now. 10 years ago, they were hard to sell. Now all these unusual colors, the greens, the blue greens, lighter teal colors, lighter blues, have been just very popular out of Montana.
That's why we've traveled there the
Yes,
last,
yes.
2 years, right?
Yeah, that's why we've been going there, because trying to expand more into sapphire. And Montana, it's nice that it's here in the States. You don't have to import stuff or export stuff, and you can go there and actually mine it. And so we've been pretty involved in doing the Montana thing, and it's the most beautiful place I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you think of a more beautiful place? And you've been even more places than I have, and
well, no, I mean,
there are some great places around, but there's hard to.
Glacier is amazing.
Yeah, glaciers. Yeah. If you get a chance, go to Glacier Park. If you miss it, you're missing something special.
Yeah. You guys didn't believe me last year when I told you we should go.
I know, that was my fault. I had this thing about going to Yellowstone, and Yellowstone, to me, just no comparison. So you were definitely right. We should have gone to Glacier that year, and although we'd had to go to Yellowstone this year. So.
Yes, we would have. They would have saw more animals. That would have been the big thing. But.
Yes, it was a bit of a disappointment, the population of animals we saw. We saw 2 bison. But we were in RV. If you go to either one of them, RVs are not good for either park because you can't take them on the main roads or off the main roads. In case of Yellowstone, you can't leave the main road with an RV. So you don't get to all the places where all the animals are. And in Glacier, you can't do the Going to the Sun Road. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So fortunately, we had a car with us also, and so.
All right. So,
exciting place. We're gonna do Montana again.
We'll figure it out.
Probably have to.
So again, this stone, I don't know if, Rare 25 is the coupon code for 25% off the price. If you're just joining us, you can go to MoreGems.com and click on the banner. It'll take you to all our stones that we have on the show. You can use credit card, PayPal. We have financing up to 6 months with bread, so lots of options as well.
Hello, Eileen. How you doing?
Yes, Eileen. And yes, we do ship overseas to Europe as well. So I think we ship to over 200 countries. If you go through checkout, there's going to be options. Everything's insured. And we ship pretty fast. I think most of our shipping options are like 3 to 5 days all over the world. So you don't have to wait 2 weeks.
I don't know. Sometimes it takes that long to get to Chicago from here. Yeah, it's crazy. Especially before Christmas. It was a little crazy shipping.
All right. So we on the
next stone.
All right. Let me see if I can do this here.
Let me see if this is the right one.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Here's another amethyst. This is part of the material we bought last year in Tucson. We bought 3 kilo of it, so we've got plenty of amethyst. You need anything particular cut. I had somebody ask for a 3 carat. I can't cut a 3 carat. I can cut one, but I can't charge enough to make a 3 carat make sense to cut, as I told her. This is about the minimum I can cut a stone for when it takes 5 or 6 hours. I just feel the need to make as much as my plumber makes. So, all right, we got a sale.
We got a sale. Yeah, the stone sold to
Amethyst.
Gabrielle.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about these. They sell every show. I don't think we've had one go through a show that didn't sell. Again, it's just I can't cut enough of them. I do have in the backup stones, there's another amethyst. I think there's a round cut. I chose the square to put on the show just because we've done so many rounds over the years. But there is a second stone in the backups. That'll be 15% also, because we have maybe 20 stones. I don't know how those show up. They just show up as part of the. Yeah, I know these come up first. Michael's not here, so I don't know how this works. So there's another 20 stones, and they're great stones. I had a hard time. I kept having to pull one out as I finished one, and because I just finished 3 tonight, so I had to pull something out because my wife wants Jeffrey to go home before 10 o'clock. He's got an hour and a half drive, so.
Because I got in a high-speed chase once on the way home.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, it was somebody else.
Yeah. So I got in the middle of a police chase. Yeah.
Off the bucket list.
I guess I can take this one off now.
Yep,
it's
I think we're good.
So if you really after an amethyst, there is another beautiful round, brilliant, probably about the same kind of weight that's in the stones further down in this week's showing.
Yeah, and Michael, again, if you're on YouTube, you can join us on chat. And Michael, he just posted a link to a 13.05 carat in chat. So
okay.
There if you want to take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah, that was a nice stone too. And I think that one Linda cut. And Linda, if you're watching, your stone is in the secondary batch. I just didn't get it out in time to get it on here. But Linda cut where it's at. It really, really nice stone. Let me show that real quick. Just because if she's watching, she should know too. And this is available. It's just not part of the show. This is just, it came out beautifully. And if this was on the right setting, this is Ammolite color. It's pinkish red, just a beautiful stone. Brilliance is outstanding. And Linda, it's the first stone I gave you an excellent cut grade on so far. This one you did a really good job on, so happy with your cutting. If I could change the settings on this, you would see how pinky this is. Just really beautiful gem. So that's available in the extra stones at 15% off also. So up next is a stone that we haven't had. I haven't owned one since they were discovered in the middle 90s.
Yeah, when you told me about it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I had so many questions about them.
Yeah. This is a true Paraiba. I have a GIA cert on it. And Paraiba is, it's not the most expensive colored gem, but it's close. In tourmaline, it's the most expensive tourmaline.
You said you have a GIA cert?
Yes. Yeah. We sent it out to GIA, and they certed it as Paraiba from Brazil, because this was originally sold back in the 90s. I don't know if I have an original. I have a cert from somebody else on it, not GIA, but it was sold in the 90s, and I bought this out of an estate. And I would say color-wise, it's more like the picture on the screen, more green-blue than so blue as this. You know, as you can see, it's not totally clean, but it appears almost eye clean when you look at it. You know, as I've told you before, these cameras are merciless with inclusions. You know, included stones I don't show generally, like rubies and emeralds. You know, you won't see them on our site even if I own them because they won't photograph. You know, you just see everything that's in it, and it's just so dramatic on how it shows the inclusions. So this stone, yes, included, and almost always are. Paraiba, I think the book on this size goes up to, you know, it's just the reason I haven't owned them is because the price just is, it's mind-boggling that any stone could bring as much money as Paraiba does, you know, but it is what it is. So therefore, I generally don't own them. Because Paraiba tourmaline 1 to 1.99 carat goes anywhere up to 42,500 wholesale. So that's for extra fine. Fine is 15,000 a carat, which I would put this stone in upper good to fine. So from 9,300 to 15,000 is the wholesale value of this gem, you know. And this one's, I don't know what this one's priced with 15% off at 42.50 a carat, which still kind of blows my mind. But it's a very good value for a Paraiba tourmaline. That's all I can say about that, because, you know, I'm not the one that determines the value of stones, but it's, you know, compared to other gems, it's hard to fathom the value, but, you know, who am I to say? And, you know, it gets you a good value on a Paraiba because I'm very hesitant to price as the books do. You know, we try to be at the wholesale price what's in the book, but that would put this stone at $10,000 and, you know, or more, you know, up to what would like 20,000, just crazy money. But, you know,
So is Perry, would that be like an investment gem then? 'Cause it doesn't seem like it comes around that often.
yeah, well, as it's priced, sure. You know, if you can buy anything you can buy cheap enough, you know, has investment value, because according to the book, the stone's probably worth double what we're selling it at. But you know, to be investment, there has to be enough of it. Although in this case, it's created such a name because of the high value of it, that it does have investment value just because people are looking for it. And, you know, they're seeing 20, 30, $40,000 for, you know, stones of this size, and, you know, which is kind of restrictive on the market.
Gotcha.
So that's Paraiba tourmaline. That's beautiful color, you know, and to look at it as I am here, I mean, it appears eye clean. You know, you look close enough and strong enough light, you're going to see the inclusions in it. But it's a very respectable stone, and, you know, just a beautiful color. There's no other gem really that has this kind of color, which is part the value, and it has a glow to it. I mean, there's just a glow to the color that does make it special, particularly the material from Brazil. You know, technically, it's the only thing you should be calling Paraiba is the actual source from Brazil. The others are just copper-bearing tourmalines, and that's how it's listed in the book. And, you know, again, you can compare copper-bearing tourmaline from Paraiba. You know, most of what's available right now is copper-bearing tourmaline. There are no Paraibas coming out of the ground. There's generally no Paraibas available for sale. Only like this stone came out of an estate, because if you look at the difference between a Cuprian tourmaline, the value of fine in this size is $38.50 a carat. The Paraiba fine is $15,000 a carat. So it's 5 times the price for the Paraiba for the same kind of quality as copper-bearing tourmaline. Copper-bearing tourmalines come from Nigeria and Mozambique are the other two sources. So, and Paraiba is often used for, the name for the Madagascar material or Mozambique and Nigerian. The color's very similar, but there's a little more of a glow to the Paraiba material. So, all right, our first Paraiba. I've talked before, I owned Paraiba when it first came out. I paid $75 a carat for it, sold it for $275 and thought, God, I'm ripping this guy off. And then it turned up in his book. This is an old story you've heard. For the 3 stones I sold were $12,000, and I sold them for, they were under $1,000. So, but what did I know? I was stupid to the material, I guess. I thought chrome tourmaline should have more value than them, and oh well. One of those live and learn things. Okay, up next, from our last trip to Canada to the Ammolite mines. Again, these are just amazing colors. There's nothing that has this kind of intensity of color. I mean, occasionally you see an opal that's close, but it still doesn't have that, it's almost like green foil. It's just so bright and vivid. This one weighs 30 carat, $790, and with 15% off, it's $671. Great for a pendant. We've made some beautiful pendants out of these. And that's really about all it's good for. Pendant and earrings. It's not tough enough to hold up in a ring.
Now this stuff is, this is Ammolite, and Ammonite is like kind of the bigger mineral specimen.
No, it's the fossil.
It's the fossil.
It's the animal. Ammonite was the animal. And Ammolite is the fossilized animal.
Okay.
Is the gem actually from the fossilized animal. So this is the surface of the shell that's been changed. It is aragonite. It's a thin shell. This material on the back, it's not a doublet. It is cut from what replaced the shell. So this material was inside the shell, which filled the entire vacancy that was created by the animal that died and what's the right word? I want to say desiccated, decimated, dissolved. He disappeared. The meat was gone. There's a word for it, but I've lost it. So this was replaced by sediment, and this is the outer shell, what's here. And it is replaced by aragonite. Aragonite is what makes a pearl. And the colors during the replacement came out like this. And it only occurs in a few areas. I've seen them from Madagascar. There's probably other sources that produce a little bit of this color, but these fine colors like this come only from Canada. It's from Lethbridge, right?
Yep. Yeah, these are really cool.
Yeah. So
the colors on them are just...
Yeah, and it was great that we went up there and went to the mine. We did our mining and pretty unsuccessful, but
that was some rough mining.
Yeah. We found a few pieces, but nothing like this, And we saw them dig up a piece just like this, While we were there, they did find a large one.
Yeah.
But it was great because they had a lot of material. We were there at the end of the summer, and they mine all summer, and they produce goods. And Denver was just coming up, which had been their first show, so we just caught them at the right time. And like I've told you, it's real important on these that you select stones that have a good appearance at an angle that you'd be looking at in pendants. And that's how I sorted all these, was that it had, when it laid here, it had a good display of color, particularly from the direction you'll be looking at it in. Real important, because sometimes, when these, you mount these, they don't have a big angle of color like a TV. They say they have 160 degrees of viewing. Some of these have 10 degrees of viewing. And those are the ones you try to avoid. And I don't buy them. I look at it and make sure that I can rotate it and it still stays green. Because sometimes you turn them over. I mean, there'll be one direction that works better than the others, but sometimes you turn them over and you can't see any color. So it's important that they have a wide angle of viewing. So,
And I can, testify to that, because you were there for a while looking at,
yeah.
like you were like looking at every little
Oh,
angle,
yeah.
and
Oh, and there was some really cool ones, some
Yeah.
really bright red. There was one that was just blew me away, but you only looked straight on it, or it had no color. I almost bought it anyway just because it was so special, but as a piece of jewelry, it just wasn't going to work. So just
That's
a
good.
waste of money. Yeah.
So
So
you're getting a good piece here.
did I give the price on that? $671 with the 15% off.
That's just cool.
Yeah. And we have many, many pieces. We bought, I don't know, I was worried I was buying too much, and I thought, oh, they're relatively inexpensive. We probably got them down to $200. And it just made sense. While we were there, I bought 2 years supply for sure. And, we'll probably see some material in Tucson, but I probably have enough. I may look for some solid reds or some unusual colors, because occasionally you see them that have a lot of blues in them, but they're really unusual. And stones with a lot of red are unusual. To get reds like this with the greens it's a smaller percentage. A lot of them are blues and greens primarily. So nice rock.
Let me ask you a few questions here that are coming in. Again, thanks for being patient with the questions, everybody. Is it typical for an oval cut stone to look bright on one half of the oval depending on the light?
Yes. And sometimes you rotate that same stone and the other side's bright. If that doesn't work, then there's some kind of imperfections in it that stop the brilliance. Because, if the light were direct overhead and you only got one side that's bright, then there's some concern. It's either the cut, this one's cut at the right angle and this one's cut too low or too deep. So that affects how the light hits the stone. But if they're cut right, it's usually some inclusions over on the side that's not bright that's affecting it. But a clean stone that's cut right should be brilliant throughout both sides of it. Sometimes you have color zoning, and you saw in that sapphire I showed you the color zones. Sometimes the zones are more to one side than the other. And because it makes it a deeper color, it could affect the brilliance. But you'd like them to be brilliant throughout, ideally. But if the light's over here and it's brilliant over here, it's because it's the location of the light. So.
Okay, thank you. And then both Sean and the Abaco had a question, both about the mines with Tanzania. What's the situation going on over there?
Currently, don't know much change. I know they've been trying to sell part of it off the government. They've talked about it, and I don't think anything has happened. I don't think there's been any real change currently. I know one of the jewelry television was threatening that they were, well, they've been saying it for 15 years, but they're threatening that there's been a change and the price is going to go up. Haven't seen it, you know. I think I've paid maybe 10% more, so there has been a little change in it, but not significant and no dramatic change with anything, you know. And the increase in price is probably based on the market, because the jewelry market has been very, very strong. You know, COVID was, as I've told people, COVID is our friend, because business has increased dramatically because of COVID. You know, people have had extra money to spend. Some of that money they got from the government went into jewelry, and, you know, the jewelry industry has just been really strong throughout. So it has affected the price of most gems, probably Tanzanite the least. 10% is a small increase compared to what's happened to other gems. So hopefully we'll get over there this year. If the tickets moderate, then that's something, Jeff, you've got to start working on, is getting us somewhere, because I've got money to spend with Delta that runs out at the end of this year.
All right.
And we got to figure out how to get over there reasonably without sitting back in coach.
Yes, it's a long flight.
It's a long flight, so.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be on it.
Yeah,
That's nice.
Jeff's the expert at getting cheap tickets,
Yeah. Always
generally.
doesn't pay off though, you know.
It what?
You know, with the last flight, I guess, losing my luggage for 2 weeks and
Yeah.
sitting in Venezuela for a week and a half, but for the most part, yes. I'll
Yeah.
see what I can do.
Okay. All right.
Next.
Up next.
Okay.
All right. This is a really special Tanzanite. Special because the color is amazing. The size is amazing, 36 karat, almost 37 karat. And if I say so myself, the cut's pretty amazing. It has red flash, and it's completely natural. It is so rare to get this kind of color in a natural gem that has not been heat treated. So throughout, I mean, it's just it's special throughout. You know, just very, very lively stone. The color is fantastic. Changes dramatically in different lights. And again, a lot of red flash out of it. And red flash I don't talk about much. Not generally available. You know, maybe 5% of gems show the red flash. I don't know if we can catch it. But anyway, so it's just really a great stone.
So again, it's all natural. It's not heated. Cut by you, and it's got the red flash.
And it's got the red flash.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Again, heating these will typically make them a little darker, but this one will never be heated. This is.
Someone was asking if you'd ever heat it.
Heated?
If you'd ever heat that one.
No, this one I wouldn't. You know, there are some, you know, that round earlier, if it lasted long enough, you know, I would heat it. You know, but you give them a chance as natural. If they're beautiful gems, you give them a chance as natural. Some of them you heat, you know, if they're not the top color, you know, but this is a top gem, and there's no reason to ever heat it, you know, and it won't last long enough that I'm going to have to worry about it. So. And there's always a little risk in heating. You know, it's limited, but if there's any inclusions in them, they can fracture on you. And this one has something, it's a VS2, so it's not flawless. You know, typically, that would not be a problem, but on occasion, an inclusion can fracture on you.
Something this size That'd be a really big ring, but I'm guessing
Yeah.
a pendant.
Probably. Yeah. And not that we haven't done rings this big. We have, and bigger. Oop. Another
That'd be
great
a
color
pretty
there.
amazing.
Yeah,
Pendant.
yeah, it'd be a great pendant, you know. And as a ring, you know, it's
Good size. You got a Tanzanite on right now,
Yeah.
don't you?
Oop.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah, there's people out there for rings that big.
And our designer, Christopher, that would be a nice project for him.
So who out there would wear a ring this big?
There's got to be. Come on, Eileen.
Yeah, probably.
She's saying back away from the oven, Steve.
So this stone, a minor sum of appraised value, $48,346. Our price online, $25,800. And with the 15% off, it's $21,930. So it's $594 a carat for a natural gem that's just top. It's the best of the best.
And again, we do have financing. So credit card, PayPal, and financing. Wow, what an amazing piece.
Yeah, that was exciting to get. Yeah.
Is that something you were worried about when you were cutting it? Like,
No, I'm
something
way
you don't-
past that.
oh, you're
Worrying,
you're-
yes, I used to worry about big ones, you know, but I used to cut 100 carat plus. You know, they were available, you know, back in the, when was that? Middle, late 90s. And I cut quite a few big ones like that, which I generally know better than to cut. I'd cut a big one like that now, but, you know, they're just hard to sell when you get into that kind of money, and, you know, just a pretty limited market. I think 100 carat now I could sell a few, but they're almost impossible to get stones that'll cut 100 carat now. I haven't seen a good piece of rough to cut something that big. I still have a few that'll cut 20s, maybe 30 carat like this, but that's typically as big as you see.
And talking about cutting, you and Michael posted a video of, because Michael's starting to learn how to cut.
Yep.
What was the video and the machine? Maybe let them know, like, the machine that you recommend
Oh,
for cutting.
well, it's back behind us here. Can you,
All right.
Is that picture disappear?
No, oh, I still see you in the back.
Oh, okay. So,
Gotcha. There you go.
Yeah. So back there is the Ultratech V5. That's the machine I use generally. I have a couple of machines. I have one at home, but here I use the Ultratech V5, which is the machine I currently recommend. We do rep them, and you know, it is, of all the machines I've got, it's the only one that's still manufactured. And it's the only one, you know, I've got two machines that are this kind of quality. The other machine's no longer made, so it's hard to recommend it. So the Ultratech V5, in my opinion, is the only machine to buy right now. And that's what we just bought for Michael. He's just started cutting an amethyst. He'd had finished it for the show, but then he got COVID, so that kind of stopped that. But if you're interested in the Ultratech V5, I'm not sure exactly the current price, a little over $5,000. You know, seems like a lot of money. Of course, these days, $5,000 for a lot of things is not that much money, but it's important that if you're going to get into it, you buy the machine that'll do the job. You know, other machines, you're going to have to do the job. You're going to have to know how to manipulate the stone to make the cut work. Whereas with a machine like the V5, you just have to basically know how to use the machine, but you don't have to tweak everything to make a cut work. The machine will do it for you. If I cut a round on this machine, the machine, once I find the facet I want, I can do 16 facets very quickly because I can trust the machine that it's going to go to the same depth every time. And, Most machines, you cannot trust it to do that. You've got to cut the facet, and then the next one you've got to cut it and look and see if it cut it right, and then go to the next one, see if it cut it right, and then cut again and see if it cuts right, and that's just a nightmare, particularly for a new cutter, and that's why many people just give up, because it's just too hard to do. If you don't have a machine that works right, the job is very, very difficult. Cutting is not an easy skill anyway, and if you're working on inferior equipment, it just becomes a nightmare, so a lot of the machines that are available out there, people just gave up, so buy a quality machine, and if you're really serious about it, spend the money, and you're going to find that you can actually do a great job the first time you cut. So.
And if you do want to see the unboxing and the setup and review of that machine, you can go to MoreGems.com, and right under, I think it's guides, there's faceting machines. So you can go there and you can see what this machine looks like and Steve and Michael's breakdown of it.
Yep. And if you do end up buying a machine, make sure you give our name, because I do get a commission. It doesn't cost you anything. You're not going to get a discount other than that anyway. And once you buy one and I get my commission, you get a nice piece of rough that's going to cut. Right now it'll be some of this amethyst that we're dealing in. You can see there's $700-800 stones that we finish, and you'll get one of those for free. So,
Good
just
deal.
make sure you tell them who recommended you. Cool.
All right.
That's our commercial. Next stone. All right. It's a hidden gem, and this is a really, really nice Morganite.
All right. Again, before you speak, for all the people that are new, hidden gem, I got to put this live. You can go to MoreGems.com and click on the banner, and then in about 30 seconds, you can refresh the page, and this hidden gem that's 25% off with a rare 25 will be shown. So first one to grab it gets it, but give me 30 seconds.
Just really nice pink color. Morganites come two ways, peachy and pink. And some of the material like this that starts out peach, you can heat it to be pink. Morganite can fade, but it fades from the peach color to pink when you expose it to a lot of sunlight. So these that are pink are not going to change at all. They won't fade. They're already as pink as they're going to get, and whether they started out as peach or not, I'm thinking these were natural. I don't know, it probably says on the site. I'm not sure. These come from Nigeria. They're probably natural color. But you can heat the peach colors and make them pink. I've never done it, but that's been what I've been told for my entire time in business. I'll have to buy a peach one from Nigeria and try it and make sure that's correct. But really fine stone, nicely cut. Again, I did not cut this stone, but it's beautifully cut stone. And just a super pink color. Morganite typically does not come intense a pink. This is generally about as deep a pink as you see in them. I say that. I bought a few in Madagascar that were just unbelievably pink. I haven't seen anything like those since, as that was back in early 2000s. And, I think I got 2 stones with those intense colors, but they were remarkably intense color. But this is as good as you're going to see these days, particularly from Nigeria. Just really fine pink color. Yeah. So price value of $6,320. Our price online $2,980, and with the 25% off, it is $2,235. So about $195 a carat. Nice though, nice size.
So is the deeper the peach, the more expensive it is, or how's the...
Generally, the deeper the color, the more value. And if you look at most of them, they're barely perceptible pink. And a lot of them are just extremely light peach colors. You know, I've been surprised there's a lot of people out there that like those extremely light colors, but you know, generally the value is in the depth. You'd like to be able to see it's pink and not have to try to perceive the pink color.
Yeah, I think one of the first custom rings that we made for my wife was Morganite. It was a Morganite. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember Michael had to set like 100 diamonds.
Yeah, we had diamonds around it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was cool. Morganite's beautiful. It's still, that was like 10, 12, 15 years ago. It's still beautiful.
Yeah, was it pink or peach? You remember?
Yeah,
I can't
I
quite
have no
remember.
idea.
Okay. What the ask Amy?
Yeah.
So that's a Morganite coming from Nigeria. Our next stone is a blue zircon. And again, we've talked about these blue zircons the last several shows. This is a new supply that just recently out of Malawi. And as I've mentioned, the special thing about these is the quality of the cutting. They're not cut exceedingly deep, which is typical of Cambodian blue zircon. Cambodian blue zircon can be as deep as it is wide. Whereas this is almost 8 millimeters wide and 6 millimeters deep. So it is in what would be a normal style of cutting, normal depth, as with most stones. The big advantage, it's easier to set. It doesn't look like a snow cone, so you don't have to make a custom mounting for it. This will fit into standard mountings. Plus, for its given weight, you get a full-size appearance. On those deep cut stones, you know, a stone that weighs 5 carat looks like a 3 carat or a 3.5 carat, just because all the weight is in the belly of the stone. And you're still paying price per carat on it, and you know, so you're paying more, not more for the weight, but more for its apparent size, you know. So these, even with their shallow depth, you know, just have really nice intensity of color. You know, this is about as deep as you see blue zircon colors. And zircon is special for the amount of brilliance it has. It has a diamond-like brilliance, and that's because of its high refractive index. You know, we have tools we use to identify almost all colored stones. The refractometer will work for 95% of all colored gems, but blue zircon is beyond what it can read because the refractive index is too high for the refractometer. This is 181 as a refractive index, and that's as far as a refractometer will read. So you can't test blue zircon using a refractometer. Again, it's the most powerful tool we have for identifying colored gems. Diamond is even higher. It's at 251, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere up there. So it's even has a higher refractive index, but this will give you a diamond-like brilliance. So this stone appraised value of $2,387, $1,390 is our online price, $1,181 with the 15% off. Coupon code is Big Show. And probably the picture is a little more accurate for the color than what you see here. This is starting to look like a sapphire blue, but you get more of that teal color in the stone. Again, it's a particular setting. It's on P that gets us that green that makes this look natural, but we're currently set on L. Which gives you more blue, which works for Tanzanites. It's the best setting for Tanzanites, but anything with green, you have to alter the setting to get the accurate color. So, and that's why this video and the picture are much more accurate for the color of this gem, which is what makes blue zircon different, is that teal look, that blue-green that makes it different from blue topaz or sapphire or any other blue stones. Almost like Paraiba tourmaline. It's probably the closest thing to Paraiba other than apatites. Blue zircon from Malawi. And our next gem is another Tanzanite. This one's remarkable for the size and color. It's just so hard to get this deep of color in a gem of this size. I tell people, you really need to buy the 5-carat stones if you're looking for the top gem color, because it's just hard to get it in smaller stones. But this is a stone that breaks that rule, because it's a 2-carat 79, and it's as good a color as most any large gem.
Yeah, that is crazy for that color.
Yeah, it's quite.
I thought it was a huge stone when I looked. 2.79 carat with that color.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Stone I cut. I don't get enough material to cut this size. The big problem is this is some of the most saleable material, so the rough is generally not available. I can buy a lot of rough that'll cut 5 to 10 carat stones, but buying rough that'll cut a 2 to 3 carat is just much, much tougher. This size rough, the things under 2 grams are easier to export, and therefore easier to sell. So it just doesn't get here enough. Much of it ends up in India for cutting. So it's just hard to get rough of this size, at least the deep color. So brilliant style pavilion step cut crown is how this is cut. Praise value on this $2,930. Our online price is $1,820, and with 15% off, it is $1,547. So just right at $550 a carat. Yeah, if you could see the angle I'm looking at that trillion cut, the 33 carat, it's just so much red flash. It's unbelievable. It's like a kaleidoscope of color.
This one, right?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Let's just look at it again.
Come on, somebody's got deep pockets out there. It's
That's
a
an
great
amazing
stone. Yeah.
All right, what is next?
Next, another gem I haven't had in many years.
This one?
This is a Hessonite. Hessonite garnet. My earlier years back in the 80s and 90s, I used to see this material. What you see in the picture is called heat wave effect, which is typical of Hessonite garnet. As you look in it, it looks like you're looking down the blacktop road and you're seeing the heat wave coming off it. And that's typical of Hessonite garnet. It's an identifying characteristic of it. And breadcrumb inclusion is also another identifying characteristic. And those breadcrumbs you see in there are, I won't say they're not visible at all, but I don't see them. And, naked eye, they're just very difficult to see. Again, the camera brings out the inclusions. But Hessonite garnet, the only thing I see available in Hessonite garnets are dark reddish brown stones. None of these with that little bit of peachy color to them. This stone, again, is from the estate I bought. Was sold back in the early 90s. I think it has a GIA cert also from the 90s. You know, the Paraiba I just had certed just recently, but this one has an old cert on it. So I know when it was originally sold, and that's when I used to see this material. You know, but since then I haven't seen anything in that. I haven't owned a Hessonite garnet in 30 years at least. So big stone for garnet, it's almost 10 carats. Price $4,500, $2,700 their online price, and with the 15 off, it's $2,295. So a big garnet for $230 a carat. Because we all know, if you've watched the shows, garnets have done nothing but appreciate in value. They've become one of the most important gems in our business, much to do with new sources that have come out of Tanzania, particularly Mahenge in Tanzania.
So Eileen was asking, is this still mined at all or no?
No. Not to my knowledge. Most of it came out of Sri Lanka. I'm not sure if we had any source on this one, but Sri Lanka was the primary source. No, I haven't seen rough. I haven't seen cut stones in 30 years. Yeah, not a stone, not a single stone. So, yeah.
Throw in another question. Do you have any experience with cutting color change zircon from Burma?
No. You know, there's a lot of color change stones out there, but not many color change stones that the color changes are really exciting or beautiful stones. I know there's zircons or spinels now. There's almost no garnets, the color change garnets. I mean, there are stones that change color, but the original ones that went from green to red are no longer available. There's material coming out of Lindy that does color change in garnets. So there's a lot of color changes, but not often any that both colors are exciting or the color change is dramatic. But no, the zircon, no, I have no experience with.
Okay.
Okay, up next, another stone I haven't had in 20 years, probably.
We were just talking about this one earlier.
Kunzite. Yeah. Kunzite is known as a nighttime gem, primarily because you don't want to wear it often in sunlight because it can fade. May take a couple of days of sunlight to make that happen, but some of the gems will fade. You know, there's a lot of reports of material that doesn't fade, but the only way to find out is take it out in the sun, and you probably don't want to do that. You know, so this is a stone to avoid sunlight, daylight. I haven't owned one for a long time because of that. But I bought this from the estate, and it's priced right. I mean, there's no question about it. The price in the books will be quite high on this material. I think I've even been a little bit under what the appraised prices are in our appraisal. So it appraises at $7,400. Sale price, or normal sale price, $3,900, and with 25 off, it is. Oh, no, this is a deal.
What?
This is one of the deals. You better get that up there.
Oh, Michael, he's got. No, it's supposed to automatically show that it's a deal. I'm going to have to check that.
It should be a hidden gem.
Should be, huh?
Yep. We're checking. It is a hidden gem.
No.
Whether we have to adjust it to be a hidden gem or not.
It is hidden gem though.
Yeah, I meant it to
Michael
be.
didn't have this. He's got 5 hidden gems, but this
I don't
might
know
not
what
be one
the
of them.
I don't know what the other one would be.
Can't say it.
Okay.
So this is good. So this is gonna be a 25% offer.
Yep, it's 25 off.
All right. Let me. I'll update that right now.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the 25 off, it's $2,925. $75 a carat. You know, it's hard to beat that on a Kunzite. Because really top color. I mean, this is an intense color for Kunzite. They generally don't get much deeper than this. Nicely cut. VS2 stone has a little bit in it, but boy, not much.
Okay. So if anybody loves this stone, you can use coupon code RARE25, and you'll get 25% off this piece.
All right.
Yeah, this was a strange one. You know, we always take a look at what people are looking for on our websites, and Kunzite was actually in the top 10 for 2022. And I know we didn't have any,
Which is strange.
which is not a good thing.
People always want what you don't have.
I know, but so
Alright.
so you talked about this would be a good like night wedding stone or party stone. You know,
Sure, just don't wear it to the beach.
no, not a beach stone. Okay.
I was looking for Kunzite, but it's actually under spodumene, which is, spodumene is the parent stone for Kunzite. The pink variety is Kunzite. So they're listing upper fine as $160 a carat, and this isn't far from that. You know, this would be lower fine, so wholesale value of $120 a carat, and puts a retail value at about $210 a carat, something like that. Which, yeah, that's so. Anyway, good value on a Kunzite. Not sure if this one has. You know, a lot of these stones I had certs. Some of them were not GIA, but several had certs. It probably notes in there whether this one had a cert or not. But Kunzite's pretty easy to identify. The look is unmistakable from any gem I know. You know, it's just there's a look to it that tells you it's Kunzite. So a nice big piece for good value, $75 a carat on this stone. Just really is a good value on this gem.
39 carats.
Yeah, it's a
Good
big
size.
one. Yeah. And color, I mean, really, it doesn't get much better than the color in this one. I see a lot of people bringing in estate stones. Most are synthetics or very low quality stones. But this estate just had some really nice stones in it. All right, up next there, Jeff.
All right. And Mr. Higgs' wife has COVID. He's wondering if he should buy her that nice large Tanzanite to make her feel better. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think it would make me feel better. Yeah. It won't get her over it, but
It'll help.
yes. And once she's over it, she'll be very appreciative. Yeah. No, it's special stuff. You know, it's a 1 in a million for sure. And next one is another Tanzanite. You know, this one I just cut last week. I like the shape on it. It just worked really well for a lot of brilliance. A little different than just your normal emerald cut. You know, when you put those big corners in it, you get brilliance from every side of this gem. So this one weighs 6.83 carat. And I think the estimate yield on it was about 7 carats. So I did about what I expected. Occasionally I do better, but you know, hitting the estimate is good. You know, just beautiful color on this gem. Let's see. Whoops. Get the book out of there. There we go. And I think, yeah, probably has red flash too. Looks like it. Just really happy with how the cut came out. Praise price is a little over $8,000. Our online price $46.10, and with the 15 off, it's $3,918. So top gemstone for $573 a carat.
That's a cool cut.
Yeah, great for ring, big enough for a pendant. The stone is half our entire business, which is crazy. Yeah, I worry about that occasionally, just because you just don't know what the future of the market is, you know, and the country can step in and stop the export of it at any time, which could be a little hazardous to our business health. So, and it's a little bit of why we've tried to go more into sapphires, just to protect ourselves a little bit. You know, hopefully in Tucson, you know, I've got a Sri Lankan supplier that's going to come, and I'll meet with them before the shows and hopefully get some nice fancy colors is what I'm after, as well as some blues. You know, they cut some beautiful fancies out of Madagascar, and they actually say they're from Madagascar, which the people are real honest, and you know where the material came from. And they have I bought bicolors from them. I've got a green, yellow, and and just the full range of fancy colors come out of Madagascar. And Sri Lanka too. Sri Lanka produces a dramatic range of colors. You know, Madagascar probably more so, and and the prices. A lot of the fancies are a third, a fourth of what the blues are.
We got ourselves a sale.
All right.
So Christy picked up the Kunzite.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you're gonna like the Kunzite. Just keep that
She must be a
no
woman of the
sun in
night.
mind. Yes,
Yes.
yes, a woman. I'm not sure that's the right thing not to say.
Well, I bet,
Yes.
like,
Yeah, she likes
she's-
nightlife.
Yes. She'd
Yeah.
be able to take that. Yeah, it's still a cool piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good stone. You know, it impressed me enough that I actually bought one. You know, the price was right and the color was right, and I take my fear away of stone, the possibility of fading, and we all just have to know that that's a consideration, and you keep it out of the sunlight as much as possible. So, well, thanks. Yeah, you're gonna love the stone. It'll
you,
make
Christy.
a great pendant if that's what you're gonna make out of it. Do you have any idea what you're gonna make out of it? And if we can help you with it, let us know.
Definitely.
So.
All right. Next one
Is a really cool opal.
These colors remind me. I think we both just saw Avatar. Yeah, I just saw Avatar as well.
Yeah.
All the colors you see in that movie.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, and this is such a wide variety of colors in this gem. You know, a little bit of everything. And just intense. Let's see. Yeah, there are occasionally you get these dark spots in these opals. And it's got a couple of little dark spots, but really not dramatic. But the color in this is amazing. You know, this is an opal, as an Australian opal, 400 a carat, 500 a carat with this kind of intensity. You know, and you pretty much have every color of the rainbow in it. Big, big face. This is almost an inch long. So it'll make a remarkable pendant. I don't know if we can get this on there, Jeff. So yeah, just look how big it is. You know, even from there, you can still see the colors in it. You know, and these are stones that so many comments from people that mount them up, whether it's plain mounting or fancy mounting, they just get so many people just making comments about their necklace. So just really great colors in this stone that weighs 18.44 carats, appraised price of $3,688. Our regular price is $2,240, and it's $1,904. So just over $100 a carat on this really, really remarkable gem.
Colors coming out the back.
It's probably as colorful in the back.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Just color through the entire thing. You know, this is top crystal opal, meaning it's somewhat transparent. Can't read through it, I don't think, but yeah, almost. Oops. I can't find it. Oh well, we'll forget that. Anyway, it's top crystal opal. Just meaning it's high transparency, but milky enough that you don't easily see through it. What'd you say, Jeff?
Someone was asking because you know with all these the opals that you cut, how do you decide? You know, you've done some faceted opals in the past. How do you decide whether it should be like a cab like this or a faceted?
Well, this is the right material for faceting. It's transparent enough that it'll have some effect when you facet it. I bought this one cut, so you know, which is I'm gonna do a lot more buying them cut because you have a lot less disappointments. You know, when you cut this material from rough, yes, you pay a little less than buying it cut, but you'll get 1 out of 3 stones that just didn't quite turn out like you thought it might. You know, so it makes the value of a cut stone become more important, and I am going to look for more cut stones, but you don't get them faceted. They don't facet opal typically in Ethiopia. There is one company I know that does some types of faceting, but not like we've been doing. And it's probably what I should look at is just faceting material. And I would facet more, but you know, it's such a time issue these days. You know, hopefully with Michael getting into it, we can get more cut, and Linda's gotten pretty good at cutting, and you know, like I say, her first excellent cut grade she just finished today. So you know, but still, production is not enough that we can cut everything that we own. So I do have to buy some cut stones, and the opal is something that I'll look at this Tucson show. My Ethiopian supplier comes and we see him first day we're there. Soon as he arrives, I'll see him because that's the only way to get the best of what he's got, particularly the cut stones. You know, the first person that sees them, you know, if they have any money, they buy everything. You know, and that's how I look at it. And you know, I've this hopefully we'll have good luck in Tucson. So
With a gentleman asks, Willow, what's that name come from?
it's the area. It's not the town is Weigaltina or something. Yeah. And I think it's like a county or, it's an area. Willow. All right, next up.
Next up is hidden gem. Actually,
I don't know. I don't know where his fifth one's going to be. If
I don't know, Michael's
If that
calling
wasn't-
you out, saying that other one, that Kunzite wasn't told that was hidden.
yeah, well. So I'll be interested to see what the fifth one is. If I knew we had 5, and well, anyway, this is a really, really phenomenal Tsavorite garnet. I mean, the color is just extraordinary. Weighs 2 carat 21. Again, the setting on this, it's not on the green setting, so we don't quite get what it is. And I think you'll find that my ability to represent Tsavorite as good as it is, even on the right setting on the camera, they are better than what I can do with the camera. Yeah. This is a really beautifully cut stone. I think high clarity, VS1 clarity, which is unusual for Tsavorite, to get them with almost nothing in them. Yeah, that's typically they have veils and crystalline inclusions like many gems, and just rarely are they in a VS1 type of clarity. Really well cut stone. Again, I didn't cut it, but just a beautifully cut gem. Appraised value on this of $9,945. This is one of the most valuable colors in garnet. Our price online, $5,835, and with the 25% off, it's $4,246.
Why, I mean, a question just for me. Why would you really, I guess, purchase emerald when you have like Tsavorite garnets of this color out there?
Well, I don't know. It's a traditional stone.
Yeah.
Yes, it's more money. A 2 carat really top emerald is 5,000 a carat.
Okay.
It's a different look too. It doesn't have the brilliance of Tsavorite. I mean, if you're looking for a top green stone that has great life, it's not going to be emerald. Emerald is cut to accent its color because it has a very low refractive index relative to other gems and cannot produce the kind of brilliance that you see in a Tsavorite garnet. But there's still big market for emerald. And I've got 2 out that I bought out of this estate that I've actually recut. They were very shallow stones. I recut them. So I'm actually having them retreated. There's a company in New York that does the treatments because almost all emeralds are treated. The inclusions are filled with currently epoxies, used to be with oils, but the oils weren't permanent, so these stones are from the 90s. So whatever oil was in them is gone. It's dried up and has been gone for 20 years probably. So I'm hoping for a pretty dramatic change in them, and hopefully they'll just be really, really beautiful stones. Because I've done it before where I bought a stone in Madagascar, and I've talked about this. My biggest mistake in Madagascar was not buying more emeralds. They were all included, but not thinking, you're going to oil these stones and those inclusions are going to disappear. And the one I did buy, and I sent it off to this company for treatment and said, send it back $5,000 insured. And he said, well, maybe we better do 30,000 insured or whatever the number was, because the treatment changed it so dramatically. It had a veil that ran across the center of the stone that just disappeared, so, and in emerald, it's totally accepted, this type of treatment. It's expected. Even GIA does. I mean, their top gradings are minor oiling. They don't really consider emeralds not to be oiled because almost all of them are. But I've cut 2 emeralds from Ethiopia that had no treatments to them whatsoever. We still own one of them. I sold one. So, where'd that start?
Can you hold that up against your finger? Somebody wants to
Sure.
see. Steve's fingers are huge, remember? So,
Whoop.
a woman's hand, that's definitely going to be.
I suppose I shouldn't be holding it next to a 13 karat Tanzanite, but
That's cool Tanzanite.
Yeah. So,
all right. Hopefully that helps.
But the color is great on it. The cutting is beautiful. It's just full of life. No dead spots in it whatsoever.
Okay.
Tsavorite garnet from the
25%
Savo Game
off.
Preserve. Typically is where it was originally discovered. This is probably, I'm not 100% sure on this, but a lot of the material I get is out of Tanzania and not out of Kenya. Both produce identical material. Campbell Bridges, who originally discovered it in Tanzania. The government kicked him out of there. He followed the geology across into Kenya and rediscovered it in Kenya, which is a pretty remarkable story. All right, next stone. And it's another opal, and it's another deal. It's not deal of the day, it's
2 in a row, huh?
yes. So another opal. This is what, if it were Australian, would be considered semi-black, which is just kind of not white, more leaning towards black, but not quite as black as what we'd consider a black opal. Australians will probably give me a little grief calling this semi-black. I don't know why, because they're a little bit brownish. But my experience is what they call semi-black is anything that's not white and it's not quite black. So I think this one fits. But the colors in it are quite remarkable. Again, a full range of color. Just to get those blues are just so dramatic. And that's what I'm looking for. This Tucson is more wide variety of colors. Not just, probably half the material has just reds and greens in it. But when you get those intense blues and violets, indigo, I mean, this is a stone that will exhibit every color of the rainbow. And that's what makes the value of an opal. In Australia, red is considered the most valued color. And there's a lot less reds in Australian than there is in the Ethiopian. Always has reds. It is almost the base color for Willow opal. Reds and greens most dominant, but to get the blues and the violets, I mean, you catch the violets in this. And indigo, what do you see indigo in? Well, it's in here. Indigo. Roy G. Biv, the colors of the rainbow, and every one of them is in here. So pretty dramatic opal. So this one weighs 17.49 carat. Appraised price $3,498. $21.86 is our online price, and it is $636. So $94 a carat. Quite an opal for $94 a carat. And it's another one that even the backside is a lot of beauty to it. I mean, the colors are throughout the entire stone. Nice and thick, which makes it more durable. Ethiopian is considered the most durable of the opals. It is hydrophane, meaning it likes water, so they don't craze. But hydrophane means that you have to be a little more careful what you get on it. If you get them really wet, if you put this in water for 20 minutes, it will absorb the water. It will turn clear, lose its color. Once it dries out, it comes right back. But a little more careful in getting oils on it because it can absorb oils and can affect the opal itself. But the biggest risk in opal, particularly from Australia, not all sources, but is crazing. And that's the drying out of the opal. During the first year, it's at the highest risk. But I've seen opal that people have got into sunlight and have had the opal for years, and it caused crazing in the opal. So that's something that doesn't affect this material from Willow. Nice stone.
You put it on your finger.
Yep.
Good size.
Put it in the tweezer. Yeah, good size. It's probably an inch long again. Whoops.
So that'd be something that
Would that be something that you, if you're gonna say we're gonna design a ring with that piece, it's something before you're washing your hands, doing the dishes, that kind of thing, you'd probably want to take off?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I washed my hands a couple of times, and afterwards I just wiped it off good.
Okay.
And I don't think it affected mine.
Oh yeah, you got one right there too.
Yeah. I haven't had this one on for a while. Nancy had it in her box somewhere, and I finally dug it out. So I haven't worn rings on these shows for a long time, but
nice.
I'm fully attired. So these opals are cool. They'd make a great men's ring, great pendant. There's a lot of things you can do with this, and it's a special opal. And at $94 a carat, it's a special price.
Know what I'm doing here. All right.
And up
Go
there,
there. We got a sale.
all right.
So let's think. David, he purchased the. Oh, you know what? I thought this was the zircon. He purchased a stone we haven't talked about yet. I'm working multiple jobs over here.
Right. So we
Should I
don't
announce what
get to
stone
talk
he's-
about it yet?
Should I wait?
Sure.
All right, I'll wait a little bit. We won't forget about you, David.
Okay. Okay, up next is Spessartite. Nice stone. All those little crystal inclusions, which is so typical of this material. It all has some of it in it. It's never totally clean, but you won't see those when you wear it. I mean, those are just small enough that it's only going to be visible with the camera. I suppose you put a flashlight up next to the side of it, you might see them, but you're not going to see those inclusions. So for a Spessartite garnet, this is a pretty clean stone because it doesn't, let's say it doesn't have any, it's not free of veils, but it's a clean stone for this material. This comes from Tanzania, known as Fanta Orange. And just a nice square cut. in a really pretty color. Weighs 1.93 carats, price of $965. 590 is our price online, and with the 15% off, it's right at $500. So, and that's probably more accurate color-wise on the stone too.
Like the sun.
Yeah,
Amazing
yeah.
color.
All right, next stone. I love this one. I like those long length widths, and the color on this is amazing. Yeah, another stone. I didn't cut this one. Wish I had, but just a extraordinary color, and cool shape. Such a great ring it would make. I don't know if I can get in here. Yeah, its fingers are a little too big. But anyway, it measures about 3/4 inch long. If I, yeah, show.
There it goes.
Okay. So
Oh yeah.
nice long length.
Perfect for a ring.
Well, or not to look at the. Yeah, it has. It's the length of my stone, or longer. Oh yeah, it's longer. So, and it weighs just under 10 carats, 9.87 carats. Price of $12,900. Our price online is $64.15. 15 off is $54.52. So $550 a carat, and it is just top gem color. Yep.
You put like a little circle. Go right through.
Yes. Yeah, well, you'd think I've learned by now, but each time I set it up, it's different. So. Special color, I think it's mostly blue. Yeah, it's violet blue exceptional. I don't have what the color breakdown is, but it's a high percentage blue stone.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. Special ring, special pendant. Yeah, it's a length that for a ring is definitely not oversized. Most people could wear it. Just outstanding color.
Next one.
And up next, it's another deal.
Hidden gem.
Another sapphire.
So again, if everybody's just watching, any of the hidden gems, you got to go back to the website, refresh that page, and this one should show up. And you can use coupon code rarity25 to take 25% off our sale price.
And this one, the color is just top. It's a nice round stone. It's over 2 carat, which is special. Being round, it's special. Most sapphire, high percentage, are cut in ovals. Just the shape of the rough. So getting a 2 carat round is special. Price on this one, $14,140. Our online price, $48.50. $36.38 is the price with the 25 off. Oh, 25 off. So about $1,800 a carat You know, just really, really a great stone. Nicely cut. You know, you can see some of the color zoning, which all of them are zoned. You know, the key to cutting this is getting the color in the right place, which is in the culet of the stone. Which this has done a pretty good job of that. Just faces up just a nice, even, beautifully blue color. Do a on the finger shot. So it's, I think, take that ring off. Yeah. You know, you put a little row of diamonds around this, or 2 rows, and it'll be just an amazing ring.
Still think we need that little mannequin hand.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a smaller hand. Yeah. I used to have this little teeny hand. Made things look big, but the rings were always too big for it. Yeah.
That color's awesome. All right, and that was the hidden gem, 25% off with rare 25. All you got to do for any of these stones is go to MoreGems.com, click on that banner. If you're watching on your TV, which I think some people do, I think Carrie does, Michael's fiance. You can scan that little QR code there, and they'll take you right to the collection of 15 and 25% off stones. And then you can check out, and you can use credit card, you can use PayPal, and we even have financing for up to 6 months. So, all right.
Okay.
Next
up is another Morganite. I like this cut. I didn't do it, but I do like the cut.
That is a very unique cut.
Yeah.
What is that called?
I don't know what you call it. You know, the back is kind of like a radiant cut. But whatever it is, it's right. Yeah, and again, just an intense purple color. Purple. Pink. For Morganite, you know, it's really on the deeper end of where Morganite colors are. And just, it's mostly pink, really no peach to this whatsoever, just a pink Morganite. Which for years has always been considered the best of the Morganites. But these days, there's a lot of peach colors that are coming out of Mozambique, but all irradiated colors. You know, these pinks, I believe, are natural. I would have noted it on the website. I'm mostly sure that these are natural pinks. You know, there's always the possibility of heat, but no radiation. You know, radiation is done to colors that are typically colorless and creates a color from where there was none. Whereas these came out of the ground colored, whether they were peachy and heated pink or whether they came out pink. They're just natural colors. Beautiful Morganite, just under 13 karat. Praise value of $6,475. $3,110 is our price online. And with the 15 off, it's $2,643. Just a cool cut.
And I don't know, we may have talked about this. So Morganite hard enough for a ring or?
Oh yeah, Morganite's really hard. You know, it's barrels are 7.5 to 8 in hardness. So they're just a very wearable stone, which is true. You know, emerald is the same gem. Aqua is the same gem. Even emerald is a very tough stone, depending on the inclusions. The inclusions are what makes it less durable. people think they're soft because they break or they have problems with emeralds, but the problem is inclusions, not the hardness of the stone. You know, you put enough inclusions in something and it becomes weak. So nice Morganite out of Nigeria. The next 4 stones I just finished this week. Another blue topaz.
Oh, before you take it out,
This one sold.
let's thank David for
All right.
purchasing this. This is the one I kind of messed up
Yeah.
earlier, but
Yeah.
we'll do a close up.
All right, David.
There we
It's
go.
a
That's
beauty.
cool. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a great color. They call this super blue. It's really, well, it's Swiss blue, but just a little more intense. And it's not the sapphire blue. It's, again, the camera settings. The pictures online are accurate. You know, just really an outstanding stone. Again, a stone I don't tend to cut just because the value versus the amount of labor in it doesn't necessarily go together. You know, I can cut bigger ones and actually realize profit out of it, but this is kind of borderline. You know, when you spend 5 or 6 hours cutting it and it only sells for $540 and you do have cost of material, it's kind of about the least expensive stone I can sit down and cut. Yeah, but worthwhile. I was really thrilled with how it came out. It's a Berrien style oval. I don't know if you remember Mr. Berrien. My wife still goes, Mr. Berrien. I never heard that. Yeah.
If Dana or Nancy are on the chat, come on. You know we heard this one forever.
So the next several stones, actually all the final stones are Berrien styles.
Oh, so you're living up to the reputation.
Yep. I had to do it. So
Take
that's
that,
blue
Mom.
topaz. Who bought this stone?
David.
David. Thank you, David. Yeah, you'll love it. It's just really remarkable. Make a great centerpiece for a piece of jewelry. So, and the next one up is a rare stone.
The Berrien cut.
This is a Berrien style emerald cut for sure. And this is a fancy yellow Tanzanite. You know, as I looked at the price of this, I almost went back and changed it, but Michael's sitting here with COVID and just struggling trying to get this thing together. I just go, just sell it at what it's at, because it's like it ends up $380 a carat. And this is a rare gem, you know, as far as you know, all these fancy Tanzanites are exceedingly rare, very, very difficult to get. I can't replace this now if I tried. You know, I'm hoping. I've got a friend that's over there now, and I told him, well, if you can find some fancy Tanzanites, is definitely something I would have an interest in. You know, so we'll see if we actually see any or not. But get that focus. Difficult to find and easy to sell. You know,
Yeah, I was
which
gonna
is a
say-
horrible combination. You know, you like easy to find and easy to sell, but difficult to find and easy to sell is.
And the yellows. That's actually one of
Yeah.
for the Tanzanite site. That's one of the highest searched is people looking for those yellows. And every
Yeah.
time you put one up, it sells.
Yeah.
It's
And this is a
crazy.
pretty big one. You know, I got a 2 carat 60 out of the rough weighed 444. So I was hoping I'd hit 2, but a 2 carat 60 is a pretty big stone. You know, there is a little veil off in the corner, but a stone this rare, hey, you got to live with it. And you can see it just there and be my top right. But it's not as well. I mean, it's there, but it's not dramatic. But the rest of the stone's clean. Yeah. So really a special stone. You know, you don't typically see fancy Tanzanites cut like this. You know, they're usually ovals, almost always. And when you get them cut there, they're poorly cut ovals, often windowed. You know, this one's cut right. Everything, the angles are cut right. Everything about it's cut right. Yeah, so nice stone. 2 carat 60, $1,170 is the sale price. I don't have an appraised price because nobody gives you a actual price on these fancy tanzanites. They're just too rare. So with the $995 with the 15% off, which is $380 a carat.
So Lolo wanted to know what causes the yellow color in Tanzanite.
I have no idea.
All right.
Okay. A lot of stones, I believe manganese would be a coloring agent for some of the yellows. Could be wrong about that, but again, they're so rare. Find anything written on them, find anybody that's done any research. I don't know if GIA has done any research on them. Not that I've seen, other than to mention some of the fancy colors, but real research on them, they're so rare that it's hard to get any research.
She also wanted to know if you heated this, would it change colors? Would it be a
Yeah,
darker
I'm
yellow?
sure it would change. I'm guessing it wouldn't be a good thing. I don't know what, the problem, it may be colorless because yellow is what you heat out of tanzanites. I haven't looked at it with a microscope. I think I have one here somewhere handy. Let's just see what I can see, if anything, if there's secondary color. So, because the yellow is probably going to disappear if you heat it. I don't know what's left in it. And the other one looks colorless. I don't know if it's a little bit of blue. Maybe a little touch blue. So it could be very, very light blue would be best guess, which could be pretty, but more value to the yellow than the very, very light blue. Not much difference from, a very, very light blue, you still could get 300 a carat out of, but I think at 380 a carat, this yellow is probably underpriced. So.
Somebody wanted to know why you call it fancy.
Well, the other choices call it yellow zoisite. Not too exciting of name. Some people feel you should call it fancy zoisite. That fancy tanzanite is a illegitimate term, but you go what are colors other than blue and sapphire called? They're called fancy sapphires. So I think fancy tanzanite's appropriate, and it kind of leads you to the stone that's really the similar stone to this. And like I say, if I heated this stone, it might come light blue. So fancy tanzanite is totally appropriate, I think. Because that yellow drives out easily 1,000 degrees, and that yellow is gone. So what I see in the microscope is a real light blue, so that's probably what it would end up. So, I could call this natural tanzanite and be a legitimate term. Wouldn't even have to say fancy tanzanite, because it'll heat to light blue. So, that's my story.
Speaking of blue, thanks to Tim, he purchased that amazing sapphire.
What, are the round or the oval?
The round.
The round. Oh, cool.
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm glad to move that because my Sri Lankan dealer I'll see in a week and hopefully buy more and as good a price. I don't know what's happened in Sri Lanka these days, or Madagascar, where a lot of this material is coming from. The actual source on this should be on the site. I think it is Sri Lanka, but can't remember offhand. But it is a beautiful blue stone.
See if I can find out for you.
That's kind of what I remember. I remember asking about it. Sometimes get lax on asking sources and have to go back later and
Yeah, I don't
ask
think
about
we
it.
listed it. Unless, no.
Should be in there.
Yeah.
If not, I could find out.
Okay. It's not.
It's not in there?
No.
That's hard to believe. Okay.
All right.
It's beautiful from wherever it is, and it really doesn't make a difference. It used to be a difference between the price of Sri Lanka and Madagascar material. That's totally gone now. Because Madagascar produces some of the finest in the world of all the colors of sapphires.
All right.
And up next
I think is this guy.
is a London blue topaz. And I've cut 2 of these so far. They just come out remarkable. The color is kind of steely blue. But you put a cut like this, Berrien style, on it, and just the color just comes amazing. This one took me forever to cut. I never thought I'd finish it. As you get these harder stones, bigger sizes, the amount of polishing it takes is significant. Each facet takes longer than I would like it to. This stone was probably ended up 7 or 8 hours of cutting. Again, kind of the borderline. There's only so much I think you can charge for blue topaz. So it's again, labor to value is on the low end, but the beauty of the stone is just amazing. You end up having to pay appraised value on this material, but when you cut it right, it is so worth it. To get a stone that looks like this. I mean, there's so much brilliance in the stone. Topaz has that ability to be extremely brilliant because of higher refractive index and the ability to take a really good polish. So the back of this is what makes it a Berrien. I don't know if I can. This is the pattern that a Berrien style.
Jay was wanting to know what type of jewelry would this one be good for?
Well, it's not too big for a ring. It's a big ring, but it's definitely a pendant stone. You can always do anything a pendant could be in a bracelet, but definitely easy for a pendant. You want to switch the picture. Yep. So it's a big stone. It's man backwards and trying to get these. Great pendant stone. Yeah. 27 carats and
50% off. That's less than $1,000.
yeah, so it ends up $34 a carat. It's the least expensive, one of the least expensive gems you can buy. And one of the most beautiful gems you can buy. Blue topaz, all irradiated color, starts out as a colorless stone. The difference between this and the earlier stones, which were Swiss blue, is this is done in an atomic pile. And the Swiss blue is done in a cyclotron. This material you have to store for 6 months to get rid of residual radiation, whereas the Swiss blue has no residual radiation, or it lasts a very short period. So it wasn't until probably the late 70s that the National Regulatory Commission started regulating blue topaz for its radiation and started the requirement of putting away for 6 months, because we used to get it in a hot state. I've talked about me carrying a kilo of blue topaz that probably was a bit radioactive back in when it first came out. It came out in the late 60s, I think, is when London Blue, and London Blue was the first to come out, the stuff out of atomic pile. And it was a really hot gem at the time. We had no idea there was still residual radiation in the material we were getting. So that's why my kids are like they are.
It happens to the middle child the most. Michael.
Yeah. Yeah, Dana, you didn't get any of the
Now that I'm
radiation.
thinking about it, I forgot about Dana. Yeah,
No, it was long gone by then. No, it probably was you, Jeffrey. That.
That's what helped me.
Yeah. It caused some appropriate deformities.
Okay.
Sorry. All right, really a great stone. Yeah, this is a beauty, and I've got a couple more to cut. I haven't seen London Blue Topaz for a long, long time. It's only recently been available in the rough. Just really in the last year, I've started seeing material. How much more I'll cut, just because the amount of time to cut is just crazy. I can cut a Tanzanite in half the time, and it's worth 3 times the amount. So it just becomes questionable. So it'll probably be one of the last ones you see for a while. Cool stone. Did I give the price on it? $926 with the 15% off. Berrien Emerald Cut London Blue Topaz.
By Mr. Berrien. Cut by Mr. Berrien.
And one more Berrien. And this one, I just really love this material. Such a great color. The color is more like what's pictured than this golden looking as you see here. Just settings on the camera, but this is really, really yellow stone. And just extremely brilliant, particularly for a low refractive index material. Heliodor is beryl, and beryl has quite a low refractive index. It's 1.5. This is 1.57, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. Somewhere between 1.56 and 1.59, which is pretty low on the scale. With blue zircon being 181, diamond being 250. To get this kind of brilliance out of a low refractive material is all about the cut. So this one weighs just over 7 carat, comes to us from Brazil. It is enhanced by irradiation. Typically this material is a light aqua color and is irradiated to get the yellow color. There are some naturals, so I can't say it's not, but my gut feeling is it has been enhanced. But just such a great yellow color. I mean, this really is, for a yellow stone, it's about as good as it gets. $1,240 is our online price. The appraisal price, $2,050. And with the 15 off, it is $1,054. So about $149 a carat. And it's as good of heliodor as exists. Pretty gem. So we probably have another 20 stones that you're not seeing tonight. But all great stones and all on the website, 15% off, just like all the stones you've seen so far. And that,
Yeah, we
any
probably want to thank.
questions?
Yeah, well, let me go through and thank a few people for some sales that we didn't mention here. So let's thank Mark. He purchased the pear-shaped cabochon semi-black Willow opal, 8 carat.
That's a good stone. I really wanted that in the show, but I had to cut out an opal. And it didn't it photographed different than what the stone is. I mean, as far as if I tried to show it on this camera, it just didn't show like it should. So it got knocked out. Yeah. But really a beautiful stone. So many unique patterns in it. You're going to be amazed by the look of the stone.
I think that was it right now.
No. Okay.
I don't know. I think there was another one, but yeah, I can't find it in my phone right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if we have any questions. If you're on YouTube, if you want to pop up any questions in the chat, I'm gonna see if there's anything I missed here. So there's a question about Tanzanite. Is ocean Tanzanite a thing?
Yeah, I think it's what people are. I don't know if it's the blue and green that they're calling ocean. It's just one of those names that pops up occasionally. I'm not specifically knowing if it's a lighter color. I don't know if it's more blue green. But it is a name I've heard. But like all these common names, they people use it for different things and really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to anybody.
All right. We had that conversation about emeralds earlier, and Sean was asking what you thought of Zambian emeralds.
Well, Zambian are mostly what I sell. Zambian is just a really rich, deep color. I think it's the best material that's available. I personally prefer it to, 9 out of 10 Colombian stones. There are some beautiful Colombian stones, but most of it doesn't hold a candle to Zambian material. Zambian's better priced, better color. I think it's the right choice for emeralds. And I have a round one that is just freaking amazing. Which the picture of it's probably online, but again, the picture probably won't do it justice. But just really a remarkably clean looking stone, and it is definitely Zambian.
When we were talking about heating earlier, so at what point, I guess does it depend on the stone? Would you cut the stone or you look at the rough, I guess, and what causes your decision to heat it or not? Like at what point would you say, I don't know if I should heat this or not?
Well, if I can't look at it and say it's a top gem, I know heating will make it better. And if people aren't buying it, it comes to a time that it's time to heat it. If it's going to get better and it's not selling, what other choice is there? Because most cutters heat them first, so you don't even get to see them natural. The ones that are blue and natural, everybody will heat them or will cut them first. And I don't know what they do overseas. They heat everything first, so they don't get a chance to see anything natural. It's just the first thing that goes in the oven. Their way of doing things are different than mine. I cut them first and then heat them. They heat them first and then cut them. And the reason for that is some inclusions you can leave in a stone and won't fracture. So I have to decide whether to cut the inclusion out, whereas they're just going to heat it. If the inclusion fractures, they cut it out and then cut the stone. So they feel it's better to heat them first and then cut them because they know exactly what they have and how to cut it clean then. Whereas if you leave something in and then heat it, it may fracture then, and you've cut the stone and you just have to recut it. And you end up losing more weight that way, but it's just, you never see a natural Tanzanite, and some of the browns are just beautiful natural and very saleable natural, but overseas cutting, you're never gonna find a natural stone from them.
So I guess on top of that, so is there any added value for it being unheated versus heated?
Should be, but I don't charge it. It's most gems, yes, they're more valuable. But if you look at all the stones I've sold that are naturals, they've never been more than what they would be if they heated to a top gem. Because anything that's top gem unheated that shows remarkable secondary colors, the only ones worth saving are the ones that will be that diesel color, which is brownish red, and then you get a lot of play of color out of it. You get blues and different flashes of different colors. Those are the ones worth saving. Whereas most ones you cut natural are just brown. I think I just pictured one recently that just looked reddish brown, had no secondary colors, which was actually the emerald cut that was on the show today. There is a video of it before heating, and it just had no secondary colors, even though it was a pretty reddish brown. Just knew it had to be heated, and it heated just to a top gem color.
Okay. On the same, I'm going to keep on the Tanzanite here. What's the difference with the Tanzanite gemstones versus the crystals? Is there any difference, or
what's the question?
the difference between the Tanzanite gemstones and the crystals, the minerals that we sell? Because for the people that don't know, on our TanzaniteJewelryDesigns.com website, Michael does have an amazing collection of Tanzanite mineral specimens and crystals that are really cool looking. And I think that's what she's asking about.
Well, they all start out as those crystals, and when they're clean, you choose whether the value is greater as a cut stone or as a crystal. And typically the crystals can bring more value, but when there's a big clear area in them, I'm first one to hack them up and cut them. But and that's true unless the crystal is perfect. If the crystal has perfect surface, there's no chips out of it, then you have to decide, which has more value. And typically the crystal itself will have greater value than what you cut from it. And Michael's had some stones that the value of the cut stones in it, and I think there's one of the biggest ones in there now. I would project that it has as much value cut as it does have as a crystal, but the crystal has much greater rarity than the cut stones. I mean, you can find cut stones all day long, whereas a really, really fine crystal is very tough to find. So the value of it as a crystal should have greater value than what material in it is to cut. But sometimes they've got a few chips on them, which destroys the value of the crystal, so you choose to cut it then.
Okay. And again, yeah, if you're interested in if you love Tanzanite and want to take a look at some mineral specimens, I think they're cool as hell. But in the live chats on YouTube, Michael posted a link directly. It's on TanzaniteJewelryDesigns.com. That's on their website we own. But there's huge selection, all different price ranges, but really cool pieces. So back to cutting, we've talked about the cutting machine back there.
Fancy Pants wants to know. Sorry, I don't know your actual name, but Fancy Pants wants to know. He's just getting into gemstone cutting, kind of like Michael is. Any advice for a beginner just getting into it?
I don't know what kind of advice. We give all sorts of advice on YouTube about cutting. I assume you've looked at those. As far as cutting advice, what to cut. Um, you know, the easiest polishing is probably barrels. The aquas. This heliodor was just remarkably easy to polish. I polished the crown of that stone in half an hour. I don't know, it was just crazy. Whereas if it was the blue topaz, it had been double that time at least. So that and garnets are probably the best things to start with because they're easy to work with. And there's quite a bit of it out there right now. If you want to find some nice garnets, Matthew Milstead has a lot of fine rhodolites, umbellites that are worth cutting. Um, that'd be one place I'd look. Um, what else? Yeah, that's a pretty broad question advice. If you have more questions, definitely, you can email us and if you have something more specific, I'll be glad to answer whatever I can.
And you have quite a few videos out there on cutting instructions.
Yeah, on YouTube, we have endless videos. If you haven't looked at them, with start to finish, 2 times over, we've done complete on starting faceting all the way through, the entire process. And our original video showed you everything you needed as far as tools. And, we've been pretty thorough at the cutting process on YouTube. And that's at this MoreGems.com.
Yep. And again, if you like the videos, you can go down below and you can like us and subscribe. You can hit that little bell. And you'll see all the newest videos from Steve. You'll get notifications about the live shows coming up. So that's the easiest way to know what's going on here. We had a couple questions. We didn't have any on the show, but have you ever ran across any good quality natural star sapphire?
You don't see much, and the biggest reason is because you can take a star sapphire that's clean, you can heat it, and it becomes a facetable piece of material. And the value of facet grade material as opposed to a star sapphire is significantly greater. So seeing top quality stars is unusual these days just because of that ability to heat. So no, you don't see much stars. You see there's a lot of sapphires that they've created stars on it through a process. So it is sapphire material that they've made a star on top of the material. I don't know exactly how that process works, but we saw that in the last 20 years. But not much in stars out there. Usually they're included because, those you can't heat them without them fracturing. I just took a star sapphire out of an old piece of jewelry and I just sent it off to be heated. And see what I get out of it. If I get a carat stone out of it. This was a sapphire that came out of a junk piece of jewelry that had very little value, but it had clean areas in it. So we can heat that silk that causes the star, and that silk is titanium. Titanium produces blue color. It is the coloring agent for sapphire. So you take this gray star sapphire and it will likely turn blue. What fractures in it is the other question. And as I told them, it has no value. I mean, this is a stone I paid nothing for. So whatever comes out of it is a bonus.
All right, good explanation. You mentioned earlier in the show that you're looking at COVID and the economy and the way things are going, how it's helped in the jewelry business. And you said that Tanzanites, though, haven't gone up too much, about 10%. A reason that versus other stones going up more?
Mhm. Yeah, enough material available, I guess. I mean, even though people say it's not available, it's, as far as I've seen, the availability hasn't changed much. Um, why it hasn't go up confounds me, because I still push it as the stone to invest in, because I think the potential for upside is significant. Just get the government in there just to screw things up, and all of a sudden we have a stone that jumps dramatically. Um, so, yeah, I have no explanation for it. I'm thrilled that it doesn't. I hope it stays like it is. It's selling extremely well for me, and I like the situation like it is. Even though gems that are going up become more interesting to people, I'm satisfied with the status quo, and just slow increases is what works for me, and hopefully it continues. But I still, I buy as much as I can because I feel that it is going to change suddenly, and hopefully not too suddenly. Like I said, if the market is disrupted, I'm 50% into business into Tanzanite, and could hurt me significantly. So it's the only thing I worry about in business, is that Tanzanite could be disrupted. So have to make a switch to something else, and that's always difficult. So you'll see us more into Sapphire, but still, our business is Tanzanite.
Yeah. There's a gentleman from Brazil, and he's asking, what do you feel is the best stone that's coming out of Brazil right
I suppose it's tourmaline still. Um, yeah, I don't see a whole lot of anything else. I don't see a large quantity of anything coming out of Brazil. Tourmalines, I see aqua fairly regular. I see some um, Morganite, but I don't see anything in great quantity. It's been a lot of years since I haven't been there since 2008. And it was tourmaline at the time, and tourmaline is still the most of what I've bought out of Brazil.
now? A nice trip to go to this year.
It's quick trip.
Yeah.
It's just
faster than Africa.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like going to Europe, and plus a couple hours. I think it's 11 hours, 11-hour flight, and which is doable, and compared to 20 hours to go to Tanzania or Madagascar.
Yeah, I think they were talking about a flight because they never fly really, from the U.S. directly into Africa. I think they were talking about Atlanta to Africa. I don't know. There was something that they were trying to do because you got to kind of go up and over and not like across the globe. So that's too far. Because I think they have to be in a certain. You have to have for emergency purposes. Have a certain land mass within a certain mile of where you're flying. But I don't know. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah. And aqua out of Brazil. Back to that last question.
Aqua. Okay.
No. I mean, amethyst is a big supply right now. It just doesn't have the value of tourmalines, and I don't know that there's enough for me to go to Brazil. There are just a lot better places to go that have a lot more quantity of gems available. Brazil's been a little weak for the last 20 years. They no Alexandrites. Alexandrites just disappeared from the planet. And Brazil was producing the best.
Oh, wow.
And I don't see as much emerald out of Brazil as it used to be. So just the quantity. And there's a lot of restrictions on mining. It's been a problem, making them fill the holes back in after they're done, and things like that.
Yeah.
Affect mining.
A lot of the country is just rainforest. It's not like you want to tear all that stuff down, but there's probably a lot of stuff hidden, I would imagine.
Yeah, although Brazil's cut down most of their rainforest, high percentage, which Madagascar's doing now too, which is sad. Yeah. So, but people got to eat, and they burn things down, and they got to grow food to feed this ever growing population we have, which is going to outgrow the ability of the earth to supply it in not too long a time, which is a scary thing to me.
Yeah.
We're
There's
going
some
to have
countries.
10 billion people in another 20 years.
Yeah, I think some countries are going up. I think they said China's actually going down.
Yeah, China's
Yeah.
going down. I think U.S. is fairly
Yeah.
stable, but I don't know where all that population's coming from, but hopefully we figure out that it's not a good thing and quit reproducing so much.
All right, back to gems.
Yeah.
Andrew wanted to know what are the most. So this is compared to he knows what I guess has been advertised and how you look at diamonds and what to look for. What are the most important things when you're looking at a precious stone? What should you keep an eye out for?
Cut. Yeah, clarity is important. The color is ultimate in gems, but cut is what makes the gem what it is. Without a great cut, you can have the greatest color and the greatest clarity, but unless it's cut right, it's just a nothing gem. So.
Okay, more questions coming in. Question on the ring on your hand. Is it? A couple people said it's blue. The opal, sorry, it's blue. But what type of opal is that? And
it's Willow opal, and it picks up some of the blue color because the back of it is black backed. It has the stone is a great gem, but yeah, paint the back of it black, and it's an amazing stone. And that's what's changed the color of this. And we just redid it. We did the mounting black before, and it had some issues, and we just redid it, and the color it became amazing. It's a stone that now, as it was once, I dropped this stone once on a tile floor and chipped it. I had to recut it, and the first time I wore it to Tucson, I just started giving my hand out everywhere because they thought it was an Australian something from Coober Pedy or one of the famous mines, and it just really is a dramatic look, and it is partly due to the black backing that's on it. But I mean, it's a great opal to start with, but you add the black, which adds a little to that blue coloration. It tends to turn them a little bluish, and just highlights the colors. Don't tell everybody that. I'm keeping it a secret otherwise.
Can you see? Can you put it up close again?
And this camera, of course. But I wonder if we can do it in this one.
All right. Do I remember how to do that?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. That's a difference.
Yeah. And these opals are better when the lights aren't so close. When you photograph opals, you just bring the lights back 3-4 feet, and then the colors get more distinct. They're not blended like that. But this stone does have pretty amazing color in it. Yeah.
Are those emeralds or those?
Yeah, a couple of emeralds.
Yeah.
And again, they're better green than that. This camera's not set up for green, although the opal looks pretty green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a few more coming in. Is blue tourmaline the same thing as indicolite?
Yes. Indicolite is blue to blue-green, not blue-green. It should be greenish blue is what we consider indicolite. Once the green is the dominant color, it's no longer indicolite.
Okay.
But people will still call them indicolite, but not a true term.
All right. What do you think about spinel, especially red spinel?
Well, if you can afford it, it's a great gem. You know, they've just gotten so expensive, but still a valuable gem. You know, the reds and the pinks, you know, but just getting the right red, getting a ruby red spinel, they're as expensive as rubies these days, you know, but they're worth it. I mean, the color, I mean, they've been mistaken as rubies for all time. You know, the famous Bayless ruby and the the British crown jewels. You know, it was thought to be a ruby for I don't know till when they finally identified it as a spinel. So they're easily mistaken for each other when they're the right color. And really, really fine red spinels. I mean, they are 4, 5, 6,000 a carat, and maybe more these days. You just don't see them. They usually have a secondary orange color, or you know, some secondaries that take them out of the true ruby red colors. But yeah, they're great stones. Spinel's just a great stone all over. It's hard, it's bright, it's got everything going for it.
So how would you? So how did they know? How did they figure out that it was a red spinel and not a ruby?
Well, refractive index is the easiest way, but I don't know how it originally was separated. Um, Not sure. You know, there's a lot of ways to separate spinel. You know, singly refractive is the easiest way, and that's probably what separated it. You know, if you look at it with a dichroscope or a piece of calcite and look at the stone, you know you'll get one color out of spinel and two colors out of ruby. So that's the easiest visual. You know, before there was a refractometer, it would be my best guess at a separation. May have been some other way. I don't know, chemical analysis. Not sure. Good question, but I don't have the answer.
That was my question.
Good question, Jeffrey.
With Tanzanite, I know we talked about the whole red flash thing.
No, we don't want to talk about red flash. Keep that a secret. Don't bring up red flash. Everybody wants red flash then.
Is it more valuable if it's red flash?
Well, you know, red flash only comes from stones with the greatest color. You know, unless they're intense and a top gem color, you're not going to see red flash out of them. So they are the highest value stones, but there's so many stones that are beautiful that don't have red flash. That's why it's a negative to talk about red flash. You know, if that's all you're looking for is red flash, there's so many gems out there that you won't buy that are just incredible gems that don't have that little secondary feature of having a red flash come out of it. You know, so they can be identical colors. One could have red flash, and I think it's partly to do the direction that they're cut on. You know, I think that the blue purple direction of the crystal will produce more red flash. I'm not 100% sure on that. Just have been kind of keeping a little eye on that. And, you know, if you cut right down the blue axis, typically you'll get less red flash. Although I've seen all blue stones that have red flash, but it's such a small percentage. You know, if you don't have blue and purple significantly in the stone, rarely do you see red flash coming out of it. You know, so red flash is a benefit, but man, if you're gonna limit it to stones that have red flash, you're gonna cut out a lot of great stones, and you're gonna be looking for something that sometimes is just not available.
All right. I think we can end there. It's getting late. I'm going to. Okay, so again, everyone, if you go to the MoreGems.com and click on that top banner, or even the banner on the front page, that'll take you to a huge collection of gemstones that are 15% off with coupon code Big Show. As Steve mentioned, there's a lot of stones on there we didn't get to on the show. Otherwise, we'd probably be here till 1 a.m. But a lot of amazing stones. So you can go there and, again, just use Big Show at the checkout where you can use credit card, you can use PayPal, and we also do have financing with no charges up to 6 months. There's also still, I think, a few of the hidden gems that are not so hidden anymore. And you can use coupon code RARE25 for those. It will state if it's a hidden gem or not, so you'll know, and you'll get 25% off. I think that pretty much does it. If you like any of those stones, pick them up. Everybody that watches tonight gets like first dibs on everything, but I will be running my emails tomorrow. So
To how many people? 87,000?
5 to 10,000, depending
Oh.
on the sites that we send.
Doesn't go to all YouTube? Must go on YouTube too, doesn't it?
Well, it'll show on YouTube, but this is to our email list.
Oh, okay.
So if you ever want to sign up for an email list, you can go to the site and just pop in your email or even texts. And again, if you do love our shows tonight and you love what Steve does and Michael does, please like and subscribe to our channel below. It helps us out and, makes us feel loved. So, yes. So, Steve?
All right, folks, remember, shop online at MoreGems.com. We want to thank you for watching. And don't forget, like Jeff said, to subscribe and click the bell to get alerts when we go live. Also, check out our video links at the bottom of this stream. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Steve Moriarty, and keep on gemming.